It's the RVE here, dropping some coronavirus knowledge and germs all over the Heelcast this week. The show was preempted last week due to the coronavirus and all of us having it. We're not dead yet. That said, we'll see where it goes. With me this week, I've got Hurls. Never mind, Hurls has a coronavirus. He's out of action. Larkin is busy interviewing a woman who is morbidly obese and actually been fucked in one of those skits where they mock the coronavirus as we speak right now. So I had to resort to the last option available. With me this week, I've got the Exalted Brother _ back. What's going on, my man?
I don't know, man. Not a whole lot. I feel like I need a corona. Hey, let me ask you a question. I didn't realize that coronavirus was sexually transmitted. I thought those were the only diseases you carried.
You know, it's just a rarity. You know, I figured out a way to get it regardless. So it was some hand to penis touching. How about that? Is that still count as a sexually transmitted disease?
I mean, I feel like if you can put your hand on your penis, you're winning, right? At all times. It's pretty much the way Hurls. What's what Hurls tells me anyway.
Hurls is quarantined down, just literally watching the entire thing with Pornhub.
That's why he was going to offer to take 2 weeks off of work unpaid, so he could watch Pornhub, probably with his kids.
Raw. It's gonna look like a dog's red rock. It's gonna be raw as it gets, and that dick of Hurls is gonna fall right off after Fappin' Hurls gets free access to Pornhub. I hear he's got an Italian IP address, so he gets free right now. Hurls just got this all figured out.
Oh man, he just needs to get Larkin to hook him up with some chicks.
Larkin's got all the connect. Larkin's actually, he's moving on. I see he's interviewing women that are not morbidly obese now, that have been fucked on camera. Congrats, Larkin, for turning your taste buds into all women. Larkin just loving them all.
Good grief.
Well, shit. We don't got a lot of news going on, which is actually kind of a nice thing, but go ahead and do our plugs. I don't know who the hell's on and off this entire insanity over this fucking virus. It just completely got the world acting batshit crazy and stupid. But I believe all of our Heelcast family has toilet paper. So, I mean, check out Chef Stuff with the Heel Team 6 shows. I know he's working on some more stuff. Larkin at the S&M show and the LFC official podcast, and get yourself a video birthday present from Larkin in the nude. Check out Wrestling with Wrestling, our boy Andre Corbeil. What's up, Andre? Thank you so much for all you do. Check us out on impactasylum.net. The Impact Lounge by my buddy BQ, where you can catch Kyle. Am I missing anyone?
I don't know. You lost me at Larkin doing naked videos. Like,
just wait till your birthday.
Yeah, it's coming up too, and I know you know it is. Oh man,
spending that money, so you're gonna get some Larkin butthole right in your face.
Oh, that's a sight for sore eyes, man.
Well, it depends on what you call sore eyes.
You're gonna make me wish I had the coronavirus.
A sore brown eye, but
yeah, one eye.
That one sore, sweet little brown eye.
You know, you give him a rim job.
Larkin?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, $20 is $20. But we'll go ahead and hop into the news. Now, we were off last week. I tried to do a solo show, just didn't find the time. I am at work too, so if I have to hop off, the Exalted Brother _ is going to take over here for me for a little bit. But so at the Impact tapings a couple weeks back, the big bad booty daddy himself, Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner, Freakzilla, actually collapsed in the ring at the end of the tapings. Some sort of a heart issue. He went and had a heart surgery basically immediately afterwards. Now Freakzilla is fine. Apparently he's actually already appeared at some indie show. Gosh, man, these wrestlers just being in the ring for so long at their age. I mean, goodness, is it safe to be doing this? I mean, the guy could have died in the ring, and unfortunately in an Impact ring of all else, you know, like in front of 50 people. Just kidding. 25. But I mean, what's your thoughts on this one? I love Steiner. I'm happy he's safe. What's your thoughts on this?
Now, Raven, Effect, you know I've always been a Scott Steiner mark, right? So let's call a spade a spade. You know I love the guy, but you mentioned about being his age and being in a wrestling ring, and I ask you, Do you think it's helped all the steroids he's done over the years? Do you think that was good for his heart?
Oh, I'm sure it was wonderful.
I mean, this is what happens when that's how you live your life. So I mean, obviously I feel terrible for the guy, and I'm tickled silly that he's doing better, and I wish him all the best. But to me, this is less a result of him being that age and in the wrestling ring, because I don't think he really wrestles that hard anymore anyway. I think he does what he can do, and more about just the way that he's kept his body all those years and the beating that his body has taken, from things that he's injected into himself. So obviously wish Scott all the very best that there is, but hopefully maybe this is a bit of a wake-up call for him, and he'll take a little bit better care of himself.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we talk about all the steroids, and I'm sure there's still some stuff like that. I mean, think about testosterone. He was from that era where everyone was doing coke, soma, steroids on top of all sorts of hard drugs. But, he's outlived a lot of them too, and let's hope it keeps going. So glad to hear that Steiner's doing better. Love the guy to death. Get that guy a microphone. That's all I got to say on that one.
Makes you wonder what Brian Cage is thinking right now.
I think he's thinking, who the hell am I going to get hired by now, especially with all this coronavirus shit.
Yeah. Him and EC3 too, right?
You watch your mouth.
Hey, you never know where my mouth has been.
Happy birthday to EC3. Yeah, I'll tell you where that mouth hasn't been, on EC3's voluptuous, amazing, godlike body.
This is true. It's been on Larkin's body.
Across the street.
Larkin's got a nice hairy ass, if you feel like that.
He does. Larkin got that Bigfoot body.
Nice hairy, pasty white ass.
Yeah, Larkin hits the tanning beds. So, we talk about, that era of wrestling where everyone, was doing coke and somas and steroids and all that. Now, the guy who, is the main reason why everyone had to do that to function, he has this big event every year. It'd be the 36th year this year. It's called Wrestlemania. Now, so the Tampa officials basically made Vince call this off. So Wrestlemania is no longer going to take place in Tampa Bay, no longer in front of a live crowd. I believe it's going to be moved to their Performance Center. It's going to be a 2-day event now, hosted by their newest signee, the Gronk, Rob Gronkowski. I can't say that I feel bad. This couldn't have happened to a better person than Vince. At the same time, man, as much as I hate the WWE, I hate Vince, I hate this company thing. This card's a fucking joke. It's Wrestle fucking Mania. It's not going to be performed in front of a crowd. I feel like they should postpone it, or push it back a little bit. But at the same time, these fucking idiot writers can't draw out a storyline for a couple more months because they have so much shit to do. They've already done so much, and they suck so bad at their job that it's just laughable that they can't do it when you see AEW, which can actually progress the storyline and push it out. What's your thoughts on that?
I'd be surprised if it goes on the day it's supposed to go on. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they aren't shut down. Look, they're talking about shutting everything down, all businesses, all non-essential businesses. A production like WrestleMania is going to cause a lot of people from a lot of different areas to get together, even if, it's just essential personnel to put the show on. You've got the production crew, right? They're all probably based in different areas of the country because they travel all the time anyway. The wrestlers we know are from all over the country. Okay, they're all going to have to get there. They're all going to have to interact with people along the way. My guess is that this is not something that the government's going to want to have happen, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them shut it down completely. Look, Raven Effect, for AEW, they keep talking about what the next show, right? When the next show is. I have a challenge for you for the next show. Not necessarily next week. So, it really kind of makes you wonder, is WrestleMania going to be able to go on at all, or is it going to get postponed indefinitely? And if it does, I don't know how much it's really going to matter if they do have to take it away for those extra couple of weeks or months creatively. Because creative is going to have a bit of a difficult time booking it, sure, but they might only have 2 or 3 shows. In my mind, this shutdown is going to affect everything in a massive way. WWE would probably be best off putting the show off completely. Look, folks, they have proven this week with Raw that they in NXT, they are not capable of putting on a good show without a crowd. AEW did a fantastic job at trying to make the show feel real and make the show feel normal. WWE had a much harder and more difficult time doing it. In my mind, if they took and they went into WrestleMania and tried to produce that same type of a product of WrestleMania, they would just totally have a shit fest, and WrestleMania would lose a lot of the luster that it's got. Now, given the fact that AEW has had a lot of momentum recently, a big blunder like that would really hurt the company long term. So to me, I think that they had ought to just drop it off the map for a bit, slow it down, bring it back in a couple of months. They've been talking June is something that I've heard, July. The big question here is when it comes down to WrestleMania and putting it off, what does that do with the SummerSlam, and how do you build the SummerSlam? Again, SummerSlam is not their biggest show. It's not their most important show. It's one of the big shows. But if they had to sacrifice and make a sacrificial lamb, you would do SummerSlam. If done right, they might be able to do a real good transition from WrestleMania into some hot stories to take that and to push that into SummerSlam. So that's kind of my take on WWE and WrestleMania and where they should go. But really the question is, what about the other promotions? What about All Elite Wrestling? When do they put on their next show? What about Impact? Impact's got some shows in the bank, right? I think that they're taped up through April at this point. NWA is in a very precarious position. I haven't seen a new show out of them now in a couple of weeks. Are they banking shows for content for when these other promotions, start to head south and not have anything? Do they not have any content on board? Nick Aldis was on record this week, and they did a video as saying, hey, look, we're going to try to do some backstage stuff to get storylines and to basically help the fans get past what they're doing and where they're going right now, because fans are depressed. Fans need content. Nobody's been able to watch live sports. If any of you guys follow in BQ, he's busy finding crazy things to crazy factoids on the internet because he has no live sports to watch. There are a lot of folks like him in this world that rely on live sports. So NWA is trying to position themselves to give some content back. Obviously, AEW would like to do the same. The question is, can you do that in a match environment, or do you have to do something maybe a little bit more old school, right? A little bit more lower production quality, lower budget, like say NWA would be able to do, and just film some vignettes from the constructs of your home or whatnot, and have different wrestlers talk. So that's kind of where NWA is headed. And then you look at Impact, right? Impact, they got some shows in the bank, which is good for them. The question is, what do they do when those shows start to run out, and where do they head creatively? On Asylum the other day, somebody said, what should they do? And I said, hey, why not try to bring back the Undead Realm? Why not try to utilize some things that Impact could do with a low number of wrestlers, a low number of production assistants, that they could go in Canada, where they've got a center of some folks that work, center of production as well, and just try to film some new and original quality, content. Try to maybe bring back the Undead Realm. Try to experiment with things like it. They have the advantage of having Access TV behind them, and having Access TV behind them will give them the ability to be able to put this content out, as will the Impact Plus application. So there's a lot of different things that Impact can do to put out some content as well. But ultimately, it's going to come down to, how can we do it with, say, less than 10 people? Where I live, you can have no more gatherings of more than 10 people. And, basically all restaurants have been shut down, bars have been shut down, everything's delivery, right? So what can Impact do to get a few people in a room to do some stuff that is creative, that is different, and that gives them the opportunity to produce a different quality product? Now, some of the promotions we haven't heard from, right? We haven't heard anything from what ROH is doing. Ring of Honor is very well known. The end of the year, they just shut the company down, folks. They figure people aren't going to be watching anyway, so they put on recap shows. So if I'm Ring of Honor, I'm doing things a little bit differently myself. I'm looking at people putting on, new products, and I'm saying, you know what? I'll run a Best of Show. Maybe we'll go back to when the Elite was in the company. Maybe we'll just go ahead and we'll just do content from last year. Heck, maybe I'll just rerun last week's episode. That's the kind of stuff that Ring of Honor is noted for doing, and it's done a lot of in the past. If you look at New Japan, if you look at some of the other, promotions that are out there, they're going to be in a similar boat. Japan has not had a shutdown at this point. In fact, I think that they're still trying to claim the Olympics are going to be on, but let's face it, that's not going to happen. So New Japan itself has indeed suspended operations for a while, but I guess they're going to have to run, best of shows as well. AAA, I don't know what's going on down in Mexico. Mexico's, just kind of always been a Wild West anyway. My guess is they'll find an arena and they'll run some shows so they can get the wrestlers down there, right? But you do have to think about anytime that you're dealing with international travel and international talent, how are you going to get them in and out of the country? Too many countries now are shutting their borders to, foreign personnel and not letting them in at all. So it's a really big problem these days that we have. Major League Wrestling, MLW, it's the same thing. Where do they go from here? What kind of content are they able to produce? Are they able to produce new content, or are they going to run rerun shows? Or do they just say, hey, look, we have no show at all for now? And how do the TV providers handle all of this, right? Fox is not going to be happy not having Raw and SmackDown on TV. They've already lost the XFL for the year. Poor XFL, it gets up, it gets running. A couple players from the Seattle team, at least one anyway, winds up with coronavirus, and the entire thing is shut down, just like the NBA happened, right? So they're losing out on this revenue anyway. So my guess is that they're going to be looking at WWE, and they're going to be saying to themselves, how can you produce content? That WWE always has the advantage of the archives. Look, if I'm WWE in this situation and I'm trying to promote WrestleMania and I can't put on shows in front of it, Raven Effect, let me tell you something. The first thing that I'm doing is I'm going out. I'm hitting WrestleMania #1, Nostalgia, and I'm playing that. Okay, I'm gonna put that tag match with Hogan and Mr. T and Piper and Orndorff, and I'm gonna put that right in my show this week. Then I'm gonna fast forward. I'm going to give you WrestleMania 3. I'm going to show you what a big match was all about. And I'm going to put what is, by many people, known as the biggest and the greatest match, too, because of how big it was of all time. WrestleMania 3. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, the Slam heard around the world. This is the kind of thing that I'm going to use for my build-up. And then as time goes on, I'm going to work my way through those WrestleManias. And I'm going to get to the WrestleMania 18 Hulk Hogan versus The Rock. Right? And funny story about that is that just this week, they celebrate, I think it was like the 18th anniversary of that, right? It's been a long time now. And The Rock went out and he's talking, he's saying, hey, look, back in that match, he didn't know who was going to win. Just like Hulk didn't know if Andre was going to let him win, he wasn't sure if Hulk was going to let him win. And so when it came down to it and he got in the match, and Hogan said, take a bump. He took the bump, but instead of him selling it like a face, he actually sold it like he would a heel. And what Rock said was that allowed the crowd to boo him and treat The Rock as the heel and Hogan as the face for the remainder of that match, because the crowd knew it was okay to cheer for Hogan. And, of course, that match went on to be quite iconic, biggest match of Rock's career and one of the biggest matches of Hogan's career. But I would take that and I would build with that nostalgia, and I would work my way all the way up through the WrestleManias and use that as a build, because quite frankly, and Raven Effect said it himself, this has been quite the underwhelming card and quite the underwhelming show that it's going to show out to be. So why not build it as a nostalgia show? Why not put nostalgia in there? Why not take and give away some of these hundreds of thousands of hours of content that WWE has to absolutely build this thing up and make this thing a magical experience that WrestleMania has always been? And I think that from WWE's perspective, that's what they need to do. They need to build WrestleMania, and they need to build it in a way that is a WrestleMania way. And to do that without a crowd, to show it in front of a crowd, with no crowd at all, it's just not working. Their talent's not used to working without a crowd. If you compare that to, say, Impact Wrestling, they're used to working on very small crowds. Their talent doesn't need to have the roar of the crowd to pick them up and lift them up. And really, that's one of the benefits of having worked on an independent scene. WWE wrestlers these days, they're taking them, they're putting them in the Performance Center, they're trying to build them up in the Performance Center, to build them the way that they want them to be built. But the truth is that then these guys get out there, and they're only ever used to being in front of a live crowd. A bigger live crowd, because even the Performance Center crowd is usually pretty full, usually pretty loud to begin with. They get into a situation where there isn't much of a crowd, and they just don't know how to handle it. They're not that consummate pro that's been there and done that. You take a look at a guy like a Hogan, you take a look at a guy like a Flair, you take a look at The Rock. These guys are going to look around, they're going to go, how can I entertain this crowd? How can I make this crowd special? The WWE wrestlers, they're looking for the crowd to make them special. And really, folks, we talk about what's been missing for the last 20 years in professional wrestling. When we look at why professional wrestling has been down in the dumps, the way it's been down in the dumps as long as it has, and this new generation of wrestler, that's a large part of it, is the fact that they don't work the crowd. They expect the crowd to work for them. And really, when you look at the old school guys, you look at Jake the Snake Roberts, right? Here's a guy that's back in wrestling. He's back with All Elite Wrestling these days. And you listen to the promos that he gives, and you listen to the way that he talks. It was just as compelling with no audience this week as it was with a huge audience last week. And the reason is Jake knows how to talk to the crowd. Jake knows how to handle the crowd. And I really think that if they give Jake a stable, if they provide Jake with the opportunity to talk for some of these young guys, some of these guys that haven't proven their way with a microphone. And I'm not saying that Darby Allin is a guy that he should be with Jake the Snake Roberts, but here's a guy who's very talented in the ring. Very charismatic at that. I mean, his problem is, let's face it, Darby's a lightweight. Okay, it's hard to sell Darby as a heavyweight champion and sell him in that WrestleMania moment that Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant had. But he's got a lot going for him. And if you give him a mouthpiece, somebody who has the ability to talk and do it all, like Jake the Snake Roberts, and really Arn Anderson too. Arn Anderson's not being used properly. They should take Arn Anderson, and they should use Arn Anderson the same way that they're using Jake Roberts, as a mouthpiece for some of these younger guys. Those guys can help to teach the ropes and really try to bring them to the level of the wrestlers of yesteryear. Now, the wrestlers of yesteryear, they were who they were because they were properly trained, because they put in their time. And also, folks, because quite frankly, they maintain kayfabe. At every step of the way, the wrestlers from yesteryear never, ever let on that that something was not real. If they would have been on Twitter, trust me when I tell you, they wouldn't be talking politics. Trust me when I tell you, they wouldn't be posting pictures of the heels and the baby faces together, having drinks or tanning on the beach. They would be staying in one hotel. Their opponent would be staying in another hotel, and they would never see them. And that gave you an aura, right, of believability. The same aura of believability that Jake the Snake Roberts is giving in All Elite Wrestling these days. And that really is something that's been lacking, and something that WWE is doing its best with the Performance Center, with NXT, to really kill. And Twitter, of course, is taking it out completely. We look at people like, whether you like her or not, Jordan Disgrace, who does her best to put on whatever she wants to put on. It doesn't matter if she's a face or a heel. She is who she is on Twitter. She doesn't mind yelling at fans when she's a face, and she doesn't mind trying to come off as a good guy when she's a heel. That are trying to create a line, right, for the fan between who Jordan Grace is and who the person behind Jordan Grace is, right? And when you do that, you start to lose your fans. And that's something that really needs to be worked on with this particular generation of fans, because it takes away from everything that professional wrestling is and always had been. So, anyway, to bring it full circle and back to the point, we really have a situation where WWE should go back and they should go nostalgia. Okay, they should try to build the show as best that they can, but probably just hold it off. And really, it feels like Blood and Guts is probably going to be moved too, and it feels like it's going to be indefinite. They weren't saying next week. They weren't saying the week beyond it. What we do know this week is that the ratings between AEW and NXT was a really big difference, right? You're talking like 400,000 fans. It was like 900 and change to 500 and change. Just an absolute massive difference in the ratings. And it was because AEW put out a believable product this week. NXT did not. And people that were otherwise watching NXT, they started to flip that dial over to AEW. And I would love to know what happens next week. Does NXT do the same thing? Or do they try to adjust to AEW? Or is there no AEW or NXT? Moving into Blood and Guts, if it happens next week, AEW really did themselves a service. A lot of people out there, okay, are saying that this was the best AEW Dynamite ever. And they did it without a crowd. I don't know it was the best ever. I've always been a big fan of that crowd. I've been a big fan of how excited the crowd is and how emotionally invested the crowd is in, the entire product. But what I'll tell you is that when that show opened up, Cody came to the ring, and it was silence and it was dark. And it just had this very weird, very bizarre feeling that makes you say to yourself, what is going on here? And then slowly but sure, okay, they start to bring out the rest of the elite. And then the question is, what happens when they come out? And it was all very quiet. It was all very eerie. And it ends with Hangman Page just basically coming out, sticking his beer up in the air and saying, yeah, I'm going to be there. But there was no music. There was no excitement. There was no anything until Kenny Omega, for me, saved the show. And he says, that's it. Hit the pyro. Hit the lights. We're doing the best damn Dynamite that we can do. And they popped it. And from that point on, the entire show went just gangbusters. We come out. We get the Best Friends versus the Lucha Brothers. Now, folks, the Best Friends, as a tag team, they don't really do it for me. Obviously, Orange Cassidy he's a you love him or you hate him kind of a guy. I personally always love the comedy characters, so Orange Cassidy's going to be over with me. But at the same point in time, the other two, I think Trent would be a great single star. Not so sold on Chuck. But the Lucha Brothers. These guys are stars. You want to ask me who the best 3 tag teams in the world are today? I'm going to tell you the Bucks. I'm going to tell you LAX. Okay? I still think of them as LAX, folks. And I'm going to tell you the Lucha Brothers. And I'm going to tell you, you pick the order. Because it really doesn't matter. They're 1A, 1B, and 1C. Or 1A, 1A, and 1A in my book. Lucha Brothers have not been featured very well. It does look like AEW is moving towards a 6-man tag belts. And it looks like they're taking the Lucha Brothers and going to make them a big part of it, right, with Pac. So, in my mind, the Lucha Brothers really should start to get some form of a push soon. So, Raven Effect, what are your thoughts on the Lucha Brothers and how they're being used in AEW?
I apologize for my absence. That took much longer than I ever expected to. Ran into some issues with my job, but I don't like it that much. I mean, I guess I like it a little bit more now that they're getting a more dominant role. I wish they kind of let them go as the top tag team. Them and Santana Ortiz, I think both are not getting used properly. I mean, granted, look at the tag team division there. It's a lot more stacked. I don't know how I feel about this Death Triangle thing yet. I'm not as big into Pac as a lot of other people are, I guess. I love the Lucha Brothers. I'm interested to see where it goes. And really, the past 2 weeks AEW I thought sucked. But this past week, man, this show is on fire. And that match definitely delivered. So that's what I got. I don't know how much I've missed of what you said, and I apologize. But
well, you missed about the 22 minutes.
Yeah, I never expected that. Unfortunately, yeah, it was supposed to be a simple transaction payment turned into due to coronavirus and stuff not being delivered or routed, a big, huge fiasco that I had to.
Would you fucking ass fucker on top of Chef or something? Jesus Christ, Raven. That would have taken that long.
So I missed the Wrestlemania talk and the other shows getting talked about too, and I don't know how far we've gotten into AEW.
Oh, it's first match, man. First match.
Okay. Did you bring up how the WrestleCon's getting sued apparently by the hotel that they had to cancel on?
No, that's just fucking asinine, dude. Like, give me a fucking break. It's it's a Marriott at that, right?
That's the most despicable shit I've heard about this whole wrestling ordeal. Everyone having to cancel, and it sucks for TNA, and it sucks for ROH, and all these people that are leeching and backpacking off.
You said TNA.
Yeah, that poor TNA show. Although,
and you were right, it is TNA. That's the sad part.
It really is. But no, it's Dynamite was awesome. I'll let you continue and take over from here. Is where we go next. But I'm actually here to give some actual feedback now. So sorry for anyone who had to listen to the Exalted Brother _ talk for 22 minutes.
Right? Like the Exalted Brother _ So hey, Raven Effect. So we covered that match, which I thought was pretty good too. And you know what really got me was Orange Cassidy's moves without a crowd seemed just as effective as with the crowd. Did you get that?
Freshly squeezed, baby.
I mean, like, for real, like, I always assumed that Orange Cassidy was a guy who was not going to be able to get over, except that he had a crowd behind him. He had no crowd. He did his thing and it worked. I didn't think it would, but it did. It worked. I was surprised they actually used him that way and gave him that shot, but he did. He made it work.
He did. Man makes anything work. He's the OC, baby.
He is the OC for sure. He's not the OG, but he is the OC. So let me ask you a question. I was talking before about the difference between AEW, WWE, and the crowd versus the not crowd, and how much better it worked. How much do you think that having the wrestlers at ringside helped? Because to me, I thought it made a huge difference.
It did, and it was genius too. It was very, very smartly done and well done. They had the right people there too to do it. I mean, MJF and the main one, of course, you need him out there. But I mean, all these other shows, I mean, at least WWE and all, it failed. It went flat. They did that stupid thing with Stone Cold that was moderately funny, but I mean, just what a joke. AEW comes out, and honestly, man, this was in my opinion, one of their better actual episodes of Dynamite, period. Like, not just, the best non-crowd show, but literally this was like the fucking show that tore the house down and got them right back into that groove to where they were. And like after a show, and damn near a million people tuned in live. I've got to assume that number's got to tune up after as good as the show was. Hopefully there is a Dynamite next week, but
yeah, well,
they flat out kicked ass.
I mean, there is that, right? If there is a next week, so to me, yeah, I thought it was great too. Now, let's talk a little bit about the women, okay? Not a lot, just a little bit. We do, because I don't understand what is all the fuss over Chris Statlander. I mean, I saw her and Penelope Ford do a move, and it looked like Penelope was jumping off the top to get Chris, and Chris was in the wrong spot and just totally botched the damn thing. It looked like Braxton Sutter out there. I mean, it was just bad. What are your thoughts on Chris Statlander?
I think she's green as goose shit, to be honest with you. And I'm going to be honest too. As much as I just hyped the show, I skipped the fucking women's match. I had to go back and watch the show a second time because basically everything that needed to go wrong yesterday for a job that literally felt like a ghost town happened as I tried to watch Dynamite. So I went back and rewatched again, and I fast forwarded through the match so I could actually pay attention. But I just didn't want to watch it. I think Statlander is goose shit, or green is goose shit. I think Riho is decent, but she's like 90 pounds. I don't buy her beating up anything. I don't even know who the other women were. I know one of the other Asian girls in there and fucking someone else. I don't know.
Penelope Ford.
Yeah, that's right. Okay,
I mean, you how do you miss Penelope Ford?
Yeah, I don't even know who won. I don't care. I care, like, show Allie, use Shanna, bring Kong back, fucking sign Evilise and Diamante. Other than, if they're not going to do that stuff, I don't care about this division.
So it was Sheeta that won, and she would be the other random Asian girl that you didn't know, and she's the one that actually won the match, which is really sad, because it's kind of like who, right? Like really like who, and then the other thing too is that after the match, right? You got Kip Sabian going at it with Colt Cabana. So why is Kip Sabian even on the show? Like what purpose does he bring to the show?
Well, and why is Colt Cabana on the show, too?
Well, there's always that. There's always why is Colt Cabana on the show. Why was he on NWA? Why was he in Ring of Honor? I don't know.
I don't know how this guy keeps getting a job everywhere but WWE, really.
Well, he's not going to get a job in WWE because he's in blackballed there by his good buddy, CM Punk. Who apparently is now, I think he's back on decent terms with WWE, even though he's not really working for them, but kind of working around them. Whatever that deal is he has with Fox. But I don't know. Kip Sabian does nothing for me whatsoever. I enjoy looking at Penelope Ford. I don't think she's that great in the ring. People act like she's great in the ring. She's not. But at the same point in time, she looks so damn good doing it that it's like, all right, fine. I can put up with it. That's about it. But now, if we're going to go from talk about botch matches, let's talk about the Butcher and the Blade versus Jurassic Express. What is it going to do to get Braxton Sutter off my TV screen for once and for all? How many more botches does this guy have to have before they just be done with him?
You know what it's going to take is him and Allie are going to have to get a divorce. Honestly. I mean, it's the reason he has a job. She's cute and looks really good. And they're not using her right. They're using him too well, to be honest with you. They're using Jungle Boy too well. They're using the fucking Butcher too well. Another match, man, that is just like, why do I have to sit through this? I'm so happy that they signed other talent. I'm tired of seeing fucking Jungle Boy, which I know that's not going to come to an end because Tony Khan's big on him for some reason. But the Blade and the Butcher they suck. And they have nothing to them. The best thing they have is they have Allie walk out and MJF is for some reason kind of aligned with them, which I hope they cut ties with. Put those motherfuckers in the Dark Order because literally they fit that better and they suck.
I mean, can we just like put them in the dark and be done with it? Like if they have to be in AEW, put them on AEW Dark, right? Get them the hell off my TV screen. Do it quick. The Butcher, he doesn't bother me. He's not good. But he's a guy that you could do something with, and you could have him on your TV, every now and again, right? I wouldn't use him every week, but kind of like an enhancement talent. The Blade, our buddy Braxton Sutter, look, Raven Effect, you and I both know when he was in Impact Wrestling, they were constantly refilming segments because he would botch shit. Okay, the only thing that he's got is a schlong worthy of Alley. That's about it, right? So be done with him. I don't mind Jungle Boy. I would probably like to see less of Jungle Boy, but I don't mind him. Again, use him as an enhancing talent, bring him in every now and again. Marco Stunt. No, just stop.
Yeah,
Just
Marco
stop.
Stunt growth needs to go.
Marco Stunt and his father, the women's champion that we saw posted on Facebook the other day. It was freaking hysterical. Get rid of Marco Stunt and Luchasaurus. If I have said it once, I've said it a million times. This guy is a future star, dude. This guy is a future megastar, but not as a dinosaur. Get the fucking mask off of this guy and let this guy tear the freaking place down. He is a star waiting to hatch.
Fuck it, mask off. Molly Percocet for the Luchasaurus. You know, the thing is, he plays that so well, and he's funny with what he does on Twitter and stuff with it. Kind of like Aiden O'Shea. Like, Aiden O'Shea was fucking funny on Twitter, but it just didn't come off on TV the way that he is. I mean, the stuff that makes Luchasaurus good in this gimmick, he doesn't really get to show on TV. I also wish they kind of cut ties to start, but, I mean, the dude is talented. He's big. He's bigger than most of the fucking roster. And he does have some star potential. It's just he's stuck with those two fucking jabronis. And I mean, Jungle Boy is literally nothing but enhancement. He screams enhancement talent. But unfortunately, like, Tony Khan is super big on the guy. And my buddy Old School Hill just says, "Oh, just wait, Jungle Boy will grow on you. Trust me, I'm still waiting, buddy." I don't see it with him. He's scrawny. And they call him Jungle Boy. Like, how are we supposed to believe that he lives in a jungle? His dad's Luke Perry, for Christ's sake. We knew he grew up. His zip code was 90210, for fuck's sake. We know he's not from the jungle. There's nothing jungle about this guy except for his nappy hair.
Look, Tony Khan's of the age where he was a 90210 fan, and Tony Khan is of the age when he was an NWO fan. And Tony Khan has the money behind him to buy both. And that's exactly what he's done, okay? He's bought himself WCW 2.0, and he's bought himself Luke Perry's son, right? That's what he's done because God bless him, God love him, he's able to do it. You and I can only wish to be able to do that. Now, unfortunately, in addition to creating that, he also, wait for it, created the Dark Order. And the Dark Order comes to the ring, and they say that the Exalted One is coming very soon. They make it like it's not going to be. They tease it's Christopher Daniels, although I don't know about you, I still wasn't buying it was going to be Christopher Daniels. It just wasn't making any sense in the moment. And the next thing you know, here comes the Exalted One in a hood and a distorted voice. And then they actually do the reveal, which it didn't seem like they were doing. It was all sort of screwy for me. It turns out that it's Brody Lee, formerly Luke Harper from WWE. And then he winds up coming in the ring and takes out SCU. And it felt terribly anticlimactic. It felt like it was supposed to be Matt Hardy. But then this might have worked out really well given what they did later on in the night, right? But what was your take on this whole Dark Order thing? And is this ever going to be anything more than a lower mid-card faction with that guy behind it?
I actually disagree. I kind of thought it was decently well done. I mean, no crowd there. It doesn't give him the pop that he was expecting. And he was supposed to debut in his hometown. I thought the little vignette right before it was pretty decent. He came in and looked like a monster and laid out Daniels and SCU. I will say, like, the fact that they fucking didn't have a crowd and there were no fans in attendance is the best thing that could have happened because it left this as a surprise. You weren't hearing Brody Lee and Matt Hardy both spotted backstage at AEW by fans. None of that stuff leaked. It's going to be hard to get these fucking losers and jobbers over. I think he'll get a massive push. I don't think any of them are worthy of it because I just don't think the charisma or talent is there. I mean, Uno and Grayson might get a decent push out of it, but I can't imagine any of them being taken overly serious. I'm sure he'll come in and probably destroy, and they'll probably, go over on SCU in the long run. He'll probably beat all three of them one-on-one with Scorpio Sky being the big thing. But I think the Dark Order thing needs to move away from SCU and go to something different because I think SCU really blends with the look and appearance of them. I don't know. I'm not feeling it that much, but I thought it was a pretty decent reveal. It definitely gave him some buzz, in my opinion, at least. And I thought the little vignette right before it was decent. So.
Now, Christopher Daniels is obviously, an agent with AEW. Do you think that he is one of the predominant, people behind the creation of the Dark Order and the booking of this?
I have no clue. From what I understand, it's the Elite and Tony Khan that do the creative. I don't know. He's probably in charge of booking how the matches go or whatever. But I really, I can't say yes or no. I have no clue, to be honest with you. But I don't think it sucked. I think it gives him a little bit of a hype. But this guy's not a huge draw or a huge name, but he's a big guy. He's got a little bit of a credibility and star power from people that have been watching him on another programming that I haven't seen. But I hear good things about the guy.
Yeah, I've also heard that he was like the jobber of the Wyatt family. Is what I've heard too. And can he talk? Meaning he was never given a chance to talk. Now, I don't watch the other show to have a clue. I don't know. I thought his performance, this week was actually a fairly decent performance for, the talking side of it. And I thought that he pulled off the darkness of the character the way it was probably supposed to be pulled off, right? But at that point, they go to the Elite versus the Inner Circle. And it's like 9:25, right, when this thing is starting. They allotted like 35 minutes. Uh-oh.
You did skip one thing. You skipped over Jake and Lance and that fucking weird vignette with the midget.
And we should talk about that because I talked about Jake and how amazing he was this week, while you were out banging some fat chick that Larkin sent you out with. But I did not talk about that vignette with Jake and the fat and the midget guy. What were your thoughts on that?
I thought Jake did great, with the interview and the promo, but then that skit or whatever it was odd to me. I know I've heard some people say they really enjoyed it. To me, I was just like, why are they just showing this guy beating up fat, slobby nobodies that, are probably, beginners in a wrestling training school somewhere or fucking backyard and some random midget out here, smiling and doing the ring announcing or whatever. I mean, it made him look tough, but he's not beating up anyone, that of any significance to make it look like he can come in and take on Cody. I still think Jake still has it. I think he's killing it. I love this role that he's in. I think it's going to make Lance. It's already made Lance Archer better than anything he's done in his career, at least that we've seen. I haven't seen his Japan shit, and I don't care to. But the skit for me, it didn't hit. And I know I'm raving about how good the show was, and I really thought it was good overall. Even though it kind of sounds like I'm more critical of it, but it's just, I don't know, man. I thought the promo was fire, but it could have went without the skit.
I loved it. You probably heard people that enjoyed it is probably me talking. I loved the skit. To me, it was very Fight Clubbish, and I think it sets Lance Archer up to be a Fight Club, dirty, I'm just going to punch you and beat you and knock you around, bare knuckles brawler. And I think that when you look at that, remember they were trying to build Killer Cross up to be a bare knuckles brawler in Impact. They just never really followed through with it, right? I think it builds him up to be that way. I think it makes him say that he'll take on anybody at all times, and he's the king. He's the king of the backyard brawling, right? The fight clubs, and I think it sets him up to be a real badass. And I think with Jake sitting there at somebody's kitchen chair, just watching from a distance, smiling. I think at one point he might have been smoking a cigarette. It was just very dark, very dirty, and very evil and sadistic is probably a great term to describe this. And I think that wrestling needs some of that. I think that this is ushering in an opportunity for kayfabe. That if Lance Archer, and I know Jake is going to is going to do it, and I talked about that before, but I think if Lance Archer capitalizes on this, I think this could be huge for him. I really do. I mean, it was just very sadistic, and there's no sadistic in wrestling anymore. Yeah, and I covered this while you were Raven Effect. Anymore, they want to go online. They want to be faces on Twitter, whether they're faces or heels. So you don't buy the sadistic. This could be buying sadistics. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved it.
You know, I mean, I know you mentioned Fight Club. It's almost kind of like a Kimbo Slice thing coming over to MMA. And wasn't it the little moniker or motto? Was it Fight or Die, right?
Yeah.
Fight or Die.
Or was it Everybody Dies? It might have been Everybody Dies.
One of the two, but if you remember, you know, with the Killer Elite Squad, it was always Kill 'Em All, Killer Elite Squad, and whatnot. So it kind of, you know, ties into the whole Killer Elite thing. I mean, Lance Archer's a talented dude. He's big. He's got a good look to him. He's got a different look than what we, you know, saw in TNA and WWE even. And we know he's been doing the Japan thing. I'd love to see them get D.H. Smith in, and actually I'd rather them get the whole new Heart Foundation. Of course, Teddy's not going to be there, but
probably not.
Yeah. But, I mean, a Killer Elite reunion would be pretty nice. You know, get the Brian Pillman's youngin in there and see where it goes from there. But, I mean, it did what it was supposed to do. I'm glad you liked it. It was just a little odd for me, but, I mean, the sadisticness. And yeah, with the Twitter thing and all, I mean, dude, I've interacted with Lance Archer on Twitter so many times. I mean, basically, if you say something to the guy, he's going to respond, which is great. You know, you don't get that from a lot of wrestlers. It's cool to interact, and he seems like a good guy. But, I mean, let's wipe that persona away for what you're doing. And I think AEW does pretty damn good with the kayfabe. MJF.
Oh, MJF is the king of kayfabe right now. That's why he's so damn popular. Because he never turns it off. Ever. He wants somebody to try to stab him. He wants that.
He might actually be a dick. He might, you know what I mean? He might not be kayfabe. He just might be him. And if that's the case, I mean, great for him for doing it, but I mean, he's got me full to where I'm like, maybe he is kind of just a fucking dick in real life.
I mean, he must be a pretty big dick. I mean, he's trying hard.
Right.
So let's talk about trying hard. What did you think about the main event this week?
You know, man, I liked it. I love that they let it go long, and that doesn't happen that much anymore. They really gave it a lot of time. My favorite part of it, though, is Santana getting a clean pinfall to win the match, because, you know, I'm a Santana and Ortiz guy. I'm an Inner Circle guy. Jericho, you know, doing commentary and talking. And we'll save the surprise ending after the match talk. I thought the match was good. It ran a little bit longer than I expected. And maybe that's because they just didn't have a lot to go with and all, and weren't feeding off of a live crowd. Stuff may have ended early. They may not have had enough personnel for what they wanted to do, but they definitely gave a match time. I think they're going to give that blood and guts match a solid hour on its own. But I don't know. What were your thoughts on it?
For the first time ever, I actually enjoyed Sammy Guevara. I have just not liked Sammy Guevara, but dude, him and MJF singing Jericho's theme song just was awesome. They had no crowd, but they played the role of the crowd. You know, Jericho's music without people singing it as he's coming into the ring, it just wouldn't be the same. And this is when you talk about pure brilliance on AEW's part about having the wrestlers in the crowd. The crowd is a big part of all Elite Wrestling show. They made sure the crowd got to continue to be a part of the show even though they weren't there. The wrestlers just filled the void of the crowd, and it was brilliant. And those two singing Jericho's theme, and poorly at that, was just epic. And I absolutely loved it. And it's probably going to turn me to start to become a Sammy Guevara fan, because I was already an MJF fan. That goes without saying. So I liked it. I did think it was a little bit long. I would love to have rather see them have an additional match in there. You know, maybe drop this one down to 20 minutes or something like that. But let's face it, you've got some talented folks in there. I will tell you, Jake Hager does not do a lot for me. He's a big dude with freaking pencils for legs. And those tights make him look even thinner and skinnier than they are. He just looks really awkward out there. But the rest of them were great. Hangman, he came to the ring. He still had his drink. Was a little upset that I believe he had whiskey, or he had beer and not whiskey. He was supposed to only be drinking whiskey. You caught that on his social media post, right?
I didn't actually.
Yeah, he's no longer taking beers from fans. He's going to only drink whiskey in hopes that the additional alcohol will help to kill off the virus, and a whole bunch of other things that were really funny. And then he caused quite the stir when he said about Medicaid for all, which was like 1 point out of 20. But of course, people turned the whole thing into a post about politics when he was quite the funny thing otherwise. But yeah, so he came to the ring. He had his beer. He did his thing. It was to quote Hurls, it was a good match. It was a very entertaining match.
And I've been saying forever now, man. Sammy Guevara is fucking hilarious. The dude is funny. He's hella charismatic. He's won me over. I mean, he's take the pinfall guy for sure. Judas by Fozzy. I love that fucking song so much. I can't even tell you how much I love that song. I've literally listened to it on repeat today like 12 times. Just rolling into work, just get the Judas in my mind going down. Hager, I mean, you can say what you want about Hager, but dude is legit, like for real. You got the MMA thing going, and granted he's beating up scrubs and kneeing them in the nuts and getting boners in Bellator during his fight. But, the amateur wrestling background too. Like I said, Lucha Underground actually used the guy the best that I've seen. I mean, he literally was just a fucking killer that came in there. And I don't. He's legit though. I mean, you can dislike him and criticize all you want, but he's like legit a good thing to have. And I like him. I do like him. I think I've always kind of been a fan. I thought WWE really used him wrong and made him too corny. He had that marijuana arrest, and maybe that's why. But We the People is bad creative and no longer a thing.
And then there was the end. And Raven Effect, I'm not going to lie. I was knocked out. I was sleeping. And all of a sudden, I looked up. And the match had already ended. They were talking. I thought it was all go-home time. And there is Matt Hardy in the crowd. So then I had to rewind and catch it, right? Matt Hardy shows up. Now, what do you think about Matt Hardy aligned with the Elite? And clearly he's broken Matt, because let's face it, it was pretty damn cool when you saw Vanguard 1 show up. You're like, oh shit, this is going to be good. If that would have happened in front of a live audience, could you imagine?
Oh, there would have been a huge pop. Huge pop. I don't know that and this is the other thing I'm saying too, and going back to the point, like, the fact that there was no crowd made this a bigger surprise than it was. You know what I mean? I mean, we were expecting Brody Lee for over a month now, but it was still like, okay, they're not doing it in his hometown anymore. Can he travel? Can he get there? Is it even going to be possible? Are we even going to see the Exalted One this week? It happens, and then you're thinking, well, shit, it's not Matt Hardy, so I guess we're not going to get Matt Hardy today. And then boom, Matt Hardy comes out at the very end. It's a good addition to that match. I think it's going to bring viewers over. It kind of sucks to not have Nick Jackson, who can go a little bit better than Matt Hardy can at this stage of his life and his career. But I think it makes the match bigger, better. It's going to get people more intrigued. You're going to see, what character and how much of the broken brilliance is going to return. I'm excited for it, man. Excited as hell.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they use him at this point. Him with the faction would give him a defined role and direction. Him is in alignment with the Elite. Is he just the sixth member of the Elite? Is he just somebody that kind of comes and goes? What do they do with him? Is it a one-time thing? Do they move him one to start the feud with Jericho to, separate Jericho from the title scene? You've got Moxley still saying he's following the Inner Circle no matter what. He's coming after them. Do they pull Jericho out and put in, Hager? I don't think they can do that because they can't have Hager lose, from what I understand, until he loses in Bellator first. It'll be interesting to see. I'm sure they have something for it. But he is there with his broken brilliance, and I think that for some of us that were fans of broken Matt Hardy, that's a win. Right? Except for Chef. Chef lost.
Right. Chef's done with AEW now.
Chef's done with AEW now. Matt Hardy's there.
I don't know if it's going to be a one-time thing or not, but I definitely think adds intrigue to the match. I think it's going to bring in more viewers. I think the ratings are going to be big for Blood and Guts when it actually happens. I think he's going to add to that. Being in a faction, it kind of takes him away from having to do too much work on his body at his age because he's banged up a little bit. But I mean, it was a big surprise debut, and it worked well. And you notice they didn't say next week; they said the next Dynamite. I mean, they've got to prepare. They're doing things that are smart, so they can get away from not having a crowd, like the parking lot brawl that they're going to do or whatever. It should be pretty entertaining. I will say, though, man, it's kind of weird. Like, they pushed Mox so hard, wrestling every week and doing that. And then as soon as he wins a belt, it's almost like other than that first show since the pay-per-view, they've really kind of kept him very limited. I don't know if he's banged up or what, but if you notice, he didn't wrestle in that match. They're really not focusing very much of the show on their champion. I figured he'd probably have a role in this Blood and Guts match, but he's obviously not going to have anything to do with it in the actual match. He can still interfere. But it's just, I feel like all that built for Moxley just to basically take the wind out of it is how I feel they're doing with it right now, which isn't the best move to do because you want your champion to be able to do that. But it's still been a good show this past week when I don't think the other two had been.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I do think that you need to feature your World Heavyweight Champion, right? But what I will say, though, is that I was really intrigued to see if Moxley showed up, because Moxley acted like he was going to be there, and then, went for a ride, and I guess he never came back. If I had that ride, I probably wouldn't come back either. I'd probably just run straight over a cliff from going too fast. So that's a different story. But Moxley's big thing, dude, is that he comes in from the crowd.
Right.
And I was wondering how that was going to work. So, I don't know. It's definitely, when you come in from the crowd, it's definitely a boost. I'm sure they would still have him come in from the crowd. An empty crowd, but the crowd nonetheless. But I do think that if you bring him in from the crowd and through the crowd, that his momentum comes right with him. I mean, he showed up in AEW, and he was immediately getting the biggest pops to show. I mean, he was undeniable. I don't care what Tessa Blanchard's gimmick is. The man was undeniable from the moment that he walked on that show. So I think he'll be fine. But I do agree with you that you should have your World Heavyweight Champion as at least a focal point, if not really the focal point of the show. And they're not doing that. So, yeah, no, definitely agree on that part.
Yeah. And the thing, too, I mean, so you got Matt Hardy, the Elite now, or aligned with them at least for one night only, if nothing else. Broken Matt Hardy used to come out and say, delete, delete, delete. And now you can have him go on Elite, Elite, Elite. I mean, it all kind of fits and ties in, and I'm pretty sure that's the route they'll at least go to start. Who do you got winning the Blood and Guts match? If it's next week or whenever, who wins? The Inner Circle or the Elite?
I think with Matt Hardy debuting, I think it's got to be the Elite. Or he turns on him and he deletes the Elite. That would be really freaking funny, actually, but maybe not in a good way. Yeah, I think the Elite. I don't think that Matt Hardy's going to come in and lose his first match.
No, I don't either. I think the Elite wins it.
And I think he picks up the pin, probably on Guevara.
I think Moxley might interfere in it too. He could try and delete the Elite. I guess so. Because he said something about how he wants to create the most complex character in the history of professional wrestling. I don't necessarily know that it's going to happen. I think Broken Matt Hardy is definitely a baby face. I don't see him being a heel at all. I don't really think the Broken universe or Broken character is ever going to work as a heel. I think it's going to be way too over and popular with fans. So I don't see him turning on him. I'm pretty sure the Elite's going to go over. I can't see him losing his debut match. And like I said, I could see Moxley interfering somehow.
And he said that he was going to, add layers to the character. He's not just going to do it all at once. If he does it all at once, let's face it, Raven Effect, it just winds up being weird. You got to layer it in there.
Oh, that's already weird. I mean, the Broken Brilliance character is weird.
Well, even for Matt Hardy, it would be weird. Yeah.
And it'd be a clusterfuck too. You know what I mean? To try and do everything at once with the
Yeah, terrible.
changes and all that he plans on doing that he's got in his head. So I'm sure he's got plenty of creative freedom. I don't think he'll get the creative freedom that he got in Impact, with NWA, but I'm sure he'll get plenty more than he got in the WWE.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. No, I think that's pretty much all we got for the show. We did have one late breaking news item. Well, to add to our list is not very late breaking, but that is Su Yung no longer with Impact Wrestling, free agent. What are your thoughts?
Elite.
Where do you think that she winds up, and where would you like to see her wind up?
I think I'll give her 3 places. I think, would she actually, you know what? I can't see NWA nabbing her, even though it's kind of right up Billy's, kind of gimmick and all that. I think she either re-signs with Impact, because of Rich Swann, although I don't know what more she can do there. So I think it's really either NXT or AEW, and I think if AEW's smart, they're going to get her quick. They do a lot of dark, gothic type of gimmicks. They desperately need good women's talent. I honestly think she goes there and she's the best thing in that division. If I were AEW, getting the TNT money, you're making money, I think you have to go get her.
I don't think AEW has a choice. If she's available, they need to go after her. The only way that I don't think she goes to AEW is if she just doesn't want to go there. Like, they desperately need help, and anybody that becomes a free agent can just walk right in. I mean, they've got Sheeta lined up against Nyla Rose, right, to be the next championship match, and that's just not a talented combination. So yeah, I see her going there too.
And I mean, what woman is gonna fucking beat up a man? One that's got to be some sort of, like the gothic witch kind of fucking suspend the disbelief, like really suspend the disbelief character, that her and Rosemary portray. I think they've got to get Su Yung. But I swear to God, AEW, if you sign this girl, keep her the fuck away from Luther and that other bitch that shaved her head, that are terrible and have no business being on TV. Don't ruin the girl with that garbage, please.
I mean, you can only separate her from so many people. And if you don't want to ruin her, you have to separate her from, like, everybody. You said it best. The only one that has any talent at all is Riho. I actually think Riho's very good, but she's like 90 pounds soaking wet. It's just not believable, even for a woman.
It's not. Especially against, Nyla Rose.
But, dude, she is talented, though. I mean, Riho's talented. If she just picked up 30 or 40 pounds,
yeah,
it would work better. So that's all the news I got, Raven Effect. What do you got? Hey, let me ask you one other question here before we sign out, right? What's up with the NWA, and why haven't I had a show from them in a couple weeks?
Well, I know they did that Inner Circle thing. But then I read that they, are suspending broadcast and they're postponing the Crockett Cup due to the coronavirus. I really have no fucking idea. I haven't really been enjoying the NWA the last couple of times I'd watched it. I definitely don't want to watch that Circle Squared show.
No.
And that's all I know about it. They really need to take, while they're off, they need to take some time and fucking look at what they're doing, because their shows are really starting to get bad.
I mean, you're spot on with that. And, you might very well be right. They might just decide to hold those shows post-production because they want that build up to the Crockett Cup. And if there is no Crockett Cup and everything's building to the Crockett Cup, then now what, right? So.
But, I mean, their big thing is the Aldis and what's his name, Marty Midget, Marty Skrull thing. I mean, they haven't even really been building to that very much lately on TV on the past couple shows. I don't even know if that match is supposed to take place during the Crockett Cup. They haven't really even described to like a newer audience what the Crockett Cup exactly is. And just the shows are getting so dumb, and the matches are falling flat. They're not using Trevor Murdoch enough, let me tell you.
More Trevor Murdoch.
Their best thing is their talkers, but I mean, they haven't used Pope to his ability the past couple weeks. They don't have Eli talking. They don't have Storm talking. They're not having the Aldis and Skrull build up like they should. they don't have they have that random fucking career contract match where the team that they've actually focused on loses their jobs to C.W. Anderson and Caleb fucking Conley. I mean, C.W. Anderson was barely relevant in ECW when they had nobody left because they were going out of business. He was like mid card, and now all of a sudden, fucking 25 years later, he's relevant in NWA and winning matches. I mean, he's not relevant, but I mean, why in the hell did he even come out there? When did he start tagging with Conley?
Wasn't that like his debut match, or he had one other match, something like that? I mean, he's barely been on the show.
Yeah. And if it would make sense to get rid of someone, it would be C.W. Anderson and
Caleb Conley.
Bland as it vanilla as it gets, Caleb Conley. I mean, he makes Braxton Sutter look colorful. I don't know.
Oh, that's so
apparently, I don't know if you said it or not, but apparently, according to Hurls, Impact is actually paying talents for events that they can't work due to the cancellations, which is good to hear because it's definitely the complete opposite of what we used to hear with Impact and TNA. So bravo to that.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. All right, Raven Effect. I think we're done. You want to wrap this sucker?
Sure thing. My apologies for missing 22 minutes, although I know that the Exalted Brother _ definitely knew what he was doing and took care of it like a professional. This is the RVE with the Exalted Brother _. Check out AEW. Check out the Heelcast family, Wrestling with Wrestling, Impact Asylum.net. Support NWA, Impact Wrestling, all of it. AEW put out some new shirts. You can also go get the desperately needed Brandon fucking Cutler shirt. Check out who the fuck decides to make a Brandon Cutler shirt and why. But this is the RVE on behalf of the Heelcast. Heelcast out. We will see you next week.
See ya.